Today's daf is daf Yud. We're continuing to laud those who give charity, give tzedakah. So the Gemara asks a very fundamental question about the whole concept of tzedakah. Here we promote tzedakah as being an unbelievable mitzvah and everything else, but yet comes along the Gemara 3 lines from the top of daf Gimel of daf Yud and Aleph. The Gemara asks a very fundamental question. Tanya, we learned in the Braisa Hayramei said Yesh Baldin La Shibach that somebody can come along and justifiably ask you, what do you mean giving tzedakah to a poor person? The Abish should really love that person. Why does he provide for him directly? Why does he need you as an intermediary? Good. Amarloi, tell him they should nitzel anu behem medina shegehenim. The Abish may create a rich and poor to give us the opportunity to take us out of Gehenim by giving tzedakah. In fact, Vazu Shaila shall to the Slufas and Rosh Hashabakiva. To the answers to Habakiva. Why doesn't Hashem provide food for them in the first place? Kiva answered, gave it the schus in the midst of tzedakah, so that we can emulate Hashem to provide for others, and we will then earn that we will go out of Gehenim. Amalei Adarab. So this says on the contrary, giving tzedakah because you're breaching Hashem's plans. He wants that person to be poor. You should go to Gehenim. And I'll give you an example. The king, he was angry with his slave, incarcerated him, and he commanded, he instructed regarding that slave, throw away the keys, don't feed, don't drink, give him to drink. One person went, had Rahmanas on the Eved, and secretly provided the Eved food and drink. The king finally becomes aware of it, like, you don't think he'll be angry? He didn't listen to his instructions? Jews are called avodim, slaves of Hashem, servants of Hashem. So therefore, if Hashem wants that person to remain poor, what right do you have to give that person food? His wife ended up with Rabbi Akiva. I'll give you an example. You want to know why we're able to give tzedakah to a poor person if Hashem wanted this person to remain poor? And you're saying that you're not allowed to give a slave. You know, if a king wants a slave to be in jail and not to be provided with food, and you give food, you're betraying the king. This is different, you know. I'll tell you the correct example. 3 lines into the mid-wide lines. You know what it's like when you give tzedakah? The king should cause abnoi, angry, upset with his son. The Choshev was incarcerated. He instructed nobody feeds his child. And one person went secretly and provided food and drink. The king heard. You don't think the king will be very, very pleased? I'll send a present. A non-Korean bunny. We'll call children. See, bunny matel Hashem lekechem. So the Jews get back with a very interesting response. So isn't that a stira? Sometimes we're referred to Hashem's children, sometimes we're referred to Hashem's servants. When you behave, we're bunny. You don't do it atem krim avodim. And now you're not doing the lotzah shel makom. Why? How do you know we're not doing lotzah shel makom? So Bnei Gershon says because there were many Yidden in Golus, and the Bnei Gershon is interesting. Not because people are not doing Torah mitzvahs. The very fact that we're in Golus means that we don't have the capacity to do all 630 mitzvahs. We don't have kabbanas. We don't have all of these things. That in itself means that we are avodim. That's what I get.
Because they voluntarily went to live in other
No, it's a churban, but people are churban by sheni.
Is it because they were swept away in chains, or because they went voluntarily?
No, voluntarily. This is the second base of English. We weren't swept away in chains, but we're just in Golus. Amalai said to him, it says in Pasuk, if you go ahead and distribute bread to the poor, to the hungry, and you'll have aniyim marud. We learned yesterday. These are the Romans who scream the whole time, "Have, give me." And actually another furnish is we said yesterday that even though they take your money, you fulfill the mitzvah of tzedakah. So another explanation is because they take more taxes from people who have, then they take less taxes from people who don't have. So in a way, indirectly, you're giving tzedakah, you're helping out the poor. When can we use this pasuk today? The Romans are in charge. It says you should distribute bread to the hungry. So we see that even as a mitzvah of tzedakah, and that's halacha kameir says bein kach bonahem. That whether they behave, they don't behave, we are his children. So Akiva agreed to Russia that maybe they're avodim now, but nevertheless, there's nothing wrong with going ahead and giving tzedakah. Rameis argues no, that benkach or benkach, they're never avodim. They're always my children. Dorish, and avodim is in another sense. Okay, Dorish Rabbi Yehuda, but Abshalom, shame, it's like a person's bezainus are fixed from Rosh Hashanah onwards, kach, and we had more bay there in the second payday. Everything that a person will spend was already set, except what you buy for Shabbos and Yom Tov and the chinuch of your children. Is kach, so too, all his losses are fixed Rosh Hashanah. Zacha, if you're a zeichem, it'll turn to you give money to Zakah. If you have to lose some money, it'll go to Zakah. If you're not Zakah, it'll go. You'll have this animurim taking your money away. Rashi, very interesting here, says in Rashi here, and we had the same Rashi yesterday and pointed out to you. Rashi says Zakah is lemazel tov. Where's good luck coming here? Zakah means if you're Zakah to do mitzvahs and you earned it. And Rashi says lemazel tov. What does that exactly mean? I mean, you have no. We look at that. I know about a loss. It's either ends up tzedakah or ends up paying medical bills or goes to the government. The nephew Rabbi Yechon saw a dream. Rabbi Yechon saw a dream regarding his nephew. The boy Lemechel made dinari. There have to be 700 dinarim. Asinu. He cajoled them to give money towards tzedakah without telling them why. Shokol minay tzedakah pashka bayu. They still had left over shivsa dinim, 17 dinim. They were minus 700 minus 70, 683 dinim. He managed to take from them for tzedakah. Yamata Mali and Kippur came every Kippur. Shodu the Beikesa, the king sent the ATO, the tax office to collect. Naktinu took it away. Don't worry, they're coming for you, but all they're going to ask you is for 17 dinim. And that's exactly what happened to him and Eichel. I'm only 17. I saw Chol. Then you should have told us up front. Then we would have given it gladly. I want you to do Mizrashma. Even tzedakah, we say, a lot of say, all that, I want you to do Lishma. Now, it's interesting, there's a couple of things here. Number one is you see the story happen in Yom Kippur. So there's a big machlek, is an interim period, which when we daven on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, when does the year actually start? For, is it Yom Kippur? So between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur is really part of the last year. And you see that from the Gemara right here. You see that, they came to collect out of Yom Kippur. That means this is part of the cheshbon of last year. So Rosh Hashanah is not really the time when it's decided. It's Yom Kippur when it's decided. And the Gemara says that Rosh Hashanah is decided. So you have like a 10-day interim period that maybe works for both years, the past year and the future year. So it's not clear exactly when it is. Another thing is, we know that we'll have a Gemara in the Flam, a story there about a guy who had.
The dream was Yom Kippur.
The dream was Motzei Yom Kippur.
They took the money after.
But it says here before Ktsuvim Rosh Hashanah. No, they took the money out of Yom Kippur. They came Malo Yom Kippur to take the money, and it says here that the Motzei Rosh Hashanah, Ktsuvim Rosh Hashanah. It's already made up on Rosh Hashanah, but then it kicks in on Yom Kippur. Is that how it works? Another thing is we're going to have in the Gemara in Rashi's Girsha Poshka Bayu, 4 lines on top, is Erev Rosh Hashanah. That means Rashi seems to learn that the end of the year is actually Rosh Hashanah. And what does he do with Erev Rosh Hashanah? They still had $17 and he gives them Zakah. And maybe Rashi's Girsha the Gemara was also Erev Rosh Hashanah. The tax, Internal Revenue Service, IRS, came to collect. So when exactly does it begin? Whatever the final decree is, and when does it end? So it's very unclear. Another thing is the Gemara in the Talmud says that a guy had his father died, didn't know where he hid all his money, and he had a dream. His father came to him that's next to the street, and he told him also that's Meiser, and he went to the Rav, to the Amir, that's what to do, and he said, and every cholam has absorbent talim. So the parts that he found the money there, but don't have to believe it's Meiser. So how could Rabbi Yechon force his nephew to give tzedakah money because he had a dream? It's a chalam. So one of the answers, I think Tashbat says, one of the answers is, there's a difference if you dream about yourself or you dream about somebody else. You're dreaming about yourself is because you probably thought about it during the day. These kids over there in the Sanhedrin, they were thinking, where's our father's money? He passed away, and we know he had money. Where did he hide it? So the thing about during the day, and therefore the dream at night, so we say part of it, the cholam is just your own you're mixing yourself. So therefore, you don't have to follow. Over here, you dreamed about somebody else, about his nephew. So he wasn't thinking about them at all. This is about somebody else. About somebody else. Everything in the Chalm is real. That's one possible answer. Hey, back to the Gemara. So Papa saw the bit going up a step. Suddenly, one of the steps of the ladder broke. Boil Maple threatened he fall. I remember if we learned that 4 punishments, these skill is not existing anymore. But today, what's a substitute skill of falling down? Now, why in the world was he almost killed? Man, the son-in-law came. The Abishai hates me like from the third person, as if I was a Machal Shabbos, as if I was what would I do? Maybe a poor person came to you and you didn't feed him properly. And the Tanya, so what? So why is that skill? If you conceal your eye, but give it a kill every it's tantamount to as if you're worshiping a Zara. You remember to be careful, don't follow these people who are in your heart, people who are bad. And if you over there went out, these people who are Bnei Blial. They're talking about Inadachas. Blial from the word bli oil. They don't accept the yoke of Hashem. So it's like a Zara. Now, when did our Papa do that? We learned yesterday in the Gemara. This poor person came to that Papa, to collect money, and the Papa said, "Oh, I'm not giving you. I heard your door knocked. I'm not giving you a cent." Until he was told, you still have to give something. You don't have to give maybe a full meal. So that's the only story we know that Papa didn't want to give tzedakah, and maybe that's what happened here. That
wasn't his money. It was
that's true, but he was a guy by tzedakah, and he refused to give. Time we learned. It says, Rabbi Yasi called any tzedakah we give in this world. The Gemara continues to commend those who give tzedakah. Shalom Gadol brings peace, great peace. Or prakliting doilim bring great intercessors. Ben Yisrael Avin Shebeshmayim between us, advocates between us and Hashem. Remember it says, Koyam Hashem. I'll tell you, Beis Marza, don't go into the house of Avelis. Don't go to Yibburn to mourn someone. I'll tell you and don't give in to all these things. I took my gathered in my peace from these people as a chesed and rachmim. Chesed with gmil chasadim, rachmim with tzedakah. Gmil chasadim is we have more dushas to gufa. You do things with your own guf, and tzedakah is money. Can you learn if you're that great that it brings forward the gulish? And it says, "Koyim Hashem Shimru Mishpat v'Osu Tzedakah Kikreva Yishuasu Lavoi." Now the problem is, it says in the pasuk you need 2 things: Mishpat and Tzedakah, and we seem to ignore Mishpat, unless the Mishpat maybe here means be discerning who he gives tzedakah to. You don't want a name, we don't want the name of Rudim. We don't want to, like Jimmy said, people who are con artists. So, try to give to people who deserve it. Maybe it's really that mishpat. Otherwise, mishpat means this mishpat justice. And why are we saying only tzedakah will bring us out of Golis? 10 things created in the world that were tough. Har kosher, har is tough, strong. But barzal mechatcha, metal can cut stones, 2 stones. Barzal kosher, metal is strong. Oil mefafeh, fire can melt it down. Oil kosher, oil is strong. Mayim mechaben, water extinguishes it. Mayim kosher, water is strong. Ovim segmoiser, clouds can carry it. Ovim kosher, clouds are strong. Of a ruach mefazov, the wind can scatter it. Ruach kosher, the wind is strong. Of a guf soivle, you can withstand it. And guf kosher, your body is strong. Pachat shoved, but fear can break you. And pachat kosher, fear is strong. Of a yaim figure, if you drink enough wine, it calms you down. And yayin kosher wine is strong. You get inebriated. Go to sleep. And we always learn, if you go to sleep a little bit, you can then go do normal things. Misa kosher mikula. And misa is the worst thing. It's tzedakah matzelas misa. And tzedakah tatzim mothers. It said tzedakah tatzim mothers. They ask a question: why, if such a big mitzvah gives tzedakah, why only moyes chitim make such a big deal out of moyes chitim when they have sukkahs? Even though it was implemented, you should put it in why didn't you make a big thing out of sukkahs every time? Why Punkt Pesach? That's also where it says that Pesach is Chagamatzis. Matzahs are Shetavas, Tzedakah, Tatzal, Mamos. So the name itself carries in the theme that you should give tzedakah. There's a chassid of the Tolos Yaakov Yosef. His name was Yaakov Shimshon Shpetavka. And he heard the first Chassidus Sefer ever printed was the Tolos Yaakov Yosef, written by Yaakov Yosef Puna, the oldest Talmud of Hashem. And he heard that the Noda Yehuda took the Sefer and put it under his chair. So he went to the Noda Yehuda's house, dressed up like a poor person. He was in the middle of giving a shir. And he walked into the shir. And in the middle of the interruption, he says, "I need to look." And he says, "You can't you wait?" So he says, "Don't worry about me." He said, "You should stand up first of all when I talk to you." He was a very young man. He was 16. And he said to him, "What is this?" He said, "That's me, but who's standing next to me?" He said, "I don't see anybody." He says until him. He says, I'm standing next to a poor person. Hashem is there with me. So he stood up. Anyway, he said he started having a whole discussion with Yehuda, and then Yehuda had a shul that no one had the courage to ever give a pulpul in that shul because he had not only Yehuda but all the talmidim were all bucking b'shas and everything else. So after the conversation, Yehuda realized this young man was a big Talmid Chacham. He invited him to speak in the shul, and he accepted. And he said, and they all said, "No, we have to put it settled. What are you talking about?" But on the day, anyone can go to pull any Gemara, put it in line, say, wow. The whole town heard about this in Prague. They all came running, whoever was able to finish the shul. The Gabbai goes, opens Bava Basra Daf and points to this Gemara right here. I saw this word kosher. He said, nope, say it simple. Everyone started to laugh. I got it, sir. What is this? He looked at it. He said, wow, this is a hard Gemara. Anyway, he then said, you guys obviously don't understand the Gemara. The Gemara says the 10 sugyas throughout Shas that are the most difficult sugyas in Shas. But each one, all the difficulties, the next sugya is going to answer it. So he started that Shabbos. Har kosher. The sugya Mishtachva Har, the Har, you bow down to it. Is a very difficult Gemara. He had 36 questions on it. But the sugya of Barzel, some other sugya there about Shchita, answered it, and he used that to answer. He said, and that took a whole Shabbos afternoon. He said, next Shabbos will continue. He did this 10 weeks in a row. Every line here was another sugya in Shas. Kosher means difficulty, and another answer. And then when he finally finished, he said, who are you?
He went to the for that.
Because they want to hear the whole thing with Gishmak. He said, I am the youngest Talmud of the Toldos Yaakov Yosef. So imagine what the oldest or the biggest Talmud Chacham is. And then imagine Toldos Yaakov Yosef. And then you can actually begin to imagine who the Hashem was. And you took his sefer and you put it on the new chair. So Yehuda pulled it out and kissed it and everything else. The story is written in the back of Toldos Yaakov Yosef. Fascinating story. You can read the whole story there. Anyway, that's the Gemara here. Let's continue.
They have the whole football.
Unfortunately, no. Unfortunately, no. Dodish, I think I read somewhere there was a sefer written at that time. Somebody was there, wrote like short notes of what it was. Dodish have the story of Rabbi Boy, they come and see Shalaki me to not the same. Other maybe during God will bring a big present to give the king. He said, something question whether he'll take it. The teams something grave and doesn't mean to be brought into the king. Lav Dafke. Hakadosh Baruch Hu Eini Kain. Other noise and pratilani zoicha mekabel shul. You give a penny to a poor person, they are ready to receive you. Shem it says, "Ani betzedek erze panecha." I will through tzedakah. I will come and see you. As well, bahakis v'nasach, and I will save you, and I will fill you. Bahak when you wake up, v'nasach, your image. Rabbi Lazar, this is a famous thing. Yoy pruta la'ani v'hadam. He gave a pruta to a poor person, and they died. Interesting. There's some. It depends on Torah or Ramah. Some say just yoy pruta, and some say la'ani. Now, what are the two gesoys? It's actually machlekes. Come back to that in a minute. And then he davened. Amar Desiv, Ani b'tayach lepanecha. My as Bob it's heading after the Bob. I come to visit you after Dukkah. So he gives Dukkah in the beginning of davening. My reference. They move eyesight. They're always, they're always up. But must be in Ilam Haba. And they will feed you, will give you Ilam Haba. Bachlek is actually the Lavush, I think Lavush, writes that you have to give it for every single davening. It's not just Shachris. Shachris, Mincha, and Maidim. Others say only Shachris because that starts the day. Anyway, it's nice to generous to a dal, to a poor person. You're lending money to Hashem. Il mole mikro kosev. It wouldn't have been written the pasuk Ef Shalom Rekvayochel. Eved loyvel ishmael. What the Eibush is, could Eved loyvel ishmael. I mean, the Eibush becomes your servant. I want to give it Rami. See, it says the pasuk Lo yoyel lahoyin. Your money will not help you, but yom ever that day of anger. It's tzedakah tatzim, but tzedakah will save you. So it'll save you from a yom ever, a day of anger. Okay, another pasuk says Lo yilo oises rasha, that all your treasures won't help you. Or tzedakah tatzim malos. Twice, two different psukim saying the same thing. Shtei tzedakah lama. What are these two different kinds of tzedakahs? Achas shematzil misa mishuna, one saved you from a misa that's premature, and by achas shematzil to medina, one will save you from Gehenim. The eidim matzil to medina Gehenim, which one will save you from Gehenim? I would receive by ever anger. Receive yom ever hayemahu, which day is angry, the Rebbe's wrath. That's Gehenim. The eidim matzil misa mishuna, which will save misa mishuna? Which will save you misa mishuna from premature death? The highest forms of tzedakah, when you give it, you have no idea you're giving it to. And noitla, the poor person taking it, any day, who does he take it? Noitla, you give it, you don't give it lafukim and marukah. That tells you the different marukah. Marukah used to hide money every Thursday night in people's door and the hinges of the door, that they should know where. He knew exactly where he put depositing the money. It's tzedakah, but they had no idea where it came from. So there was, so you have to be a step above that. Any day, me know you take it from lafuki medrababa. Noitel takes it, but any day, me Noitel when Rababa used to go around and throw the money behind his back, so he had no idea who took it. But the people who took it and saw where it came from. So that's a very high level of tzedakah, but you got to go higher than that. What you do, lace of la'an is the best thing is to give it a kuppah tzedakah. It's only a gabbai tzedakah. So you have no idea where it's going, and that poor person has no idea where it came from. So there's a machlekes when it says you should give tzedakah in the morning. It's the best. Some poskim say the best thing you put in a pushkin. You have no idea where the money's ending up, and the people who have no idea where it came from.
It says on the pushkin for this and this fund or whatever.
But you don't really know what that fund is. Who's the people? And but others say no. It says the Gemara ani. You should dafka give it directly to a poor person, not to a pushka. So there's two opinions. That's what why some say only, some don't. Meisrei, ask you a question. What you do to have make sure? Let's say you have only girls, you want to have a boy. How about you make sure? That when that you should be samech your wife for having marital relations. The Ben Yesh says even outside of the oina period, not just to fulfill your duty, and make things make her happy because we know that Isha, if a Isha mazet chila, you'll have a boy. So if you make her happy, in the mood. If you give to a pushka, you should make sure that the people who are distributing money are not as Taisha says, not to be a tzaddikim like an Italian, but to be honest. And the Rambam adds, if I remember correctly, to be a chacham also. And chacham lavdavke means in Torah, it means streetwise. So he knows who needs more money and who needs less money, so he can distribute it. He can do it the right way. And when we say the so when we say give it to a pushka, we mean when you have a pushka that you could trust, that the people that will distribute it the way it's meant to be. So how are we going to elevate the pride of the eaten? It says give machzor the shekels through giving tzedakah. Rabu said, "Shalu eshleim v'davar hechi karich tzedakah. How far does tzedakah go? Amalan turu go and see my pity. My father said, what did my father say? He said, "Pizan nosim levyonim. If you scatter, money to poor, tzidkosu amedes la'ad. Tzedakah will stand in your good stead forever, and kan torim be covered." And your pride will be elevated with covet. The following pasuk, where Shai said, Shlomo said, "Who mereimim yishkan," that he will sit above mitzvah shalom, and he will who mereimim above yishkan mitzvah shalom. His gabay, his seat will be above the boulders. And why? Because lachmai nitin meim of the money, because he gives off his bread, he distributes luck. And why is it that he find himself in such a high places? We should laugh at us and maybe the money because he gives it distributed stock. He said, "Kosher keneged zakain of covenant. Whoever gives covenant to zakanim, the Yosef Bereya de Rabbi Shimon Levi, that Yosef the son of Rabbi Shimon Levi, cholash, that Yosef the son of Levi had some suffering as well, became sick, injured. They thought he passed away. When he came back. My chazis. You probably saw, you were on Shemayim. What did you see? I'm like, famous word. I saw an upside, topsy-turvy world. Everyone that we think is chashiv here, down there, they were no. And everybody here that we despise, up there, they were very chashiv. I'm like, Olam Boris, and you saw the truth. What are us people who learn? We're not rich, we're not poor. It's like we're over here, we're over there. So the way we learn over here is, Rashi says, the rich people that down here everyone gives cover to, runs after, up there they're nobodies, and the poor that we sort of ignore, up there they're great. Taisus brings an amazing thing. I'll just read you the part of Taisus. Peter Shabein Chanamo, the Amru HaGoinim, Shekibla Beyodam, Rav Mipirab. This is a tradition, goes back generation. You know what Olam Hapach is? That down here, Shmuel was the teacher of Rabbi Yehuda. Remember Yehuda Amarav, Yehuda Shmuel. But up there, Rabbi Yehuda is teaching Shmuel. That Shmuel was actually learning from Rabbi Yehuda's Talmud. Because he wants what happened was Shmuel was giving a share. This woman was saying that she needed help, and Shmuel ignored her. And Rabbi Yehuda says, Aisha, a woman, how can you ignore a woman? It said that the Abisha says that he doesn't ignore the zaka of a poor person. So he reprimanded Shmuel for ignoring a woman, please. So the reward was that Shmuel had to learn from Rabbi Yehuda. Amazing. Okay, back to the Gemara. Then he said, but Shemaiti, I heard also above Baskosh. I mean, Ashi Bishmakan, Bolakam, Talmud the other. Pray me the one that comes here, and Talmud the other. I told you last time, Lekan is Gematria 101. That real 100 times Gemara says Chagiga. The 100 times is normal, and 101 is we go beyond your norm. Ashi Bishmakan. Likan, he comes with 101 times, then you have a really big source. Harugi Malchus, nobody can stand in their level of Ganei. Man, you know, who are these Harugi Malchus? They were that sort of Harugi Malchus. That sort of Harugi Malchus who were, as the Zohar says, a compensation for the 10 brothers, the 9 brothers, Hod Yosef and the Eibush that was pulled in. But Harugi Malchus, that's only supposed to have Harugi Malchus, Rabbi Kiva, and all these Tanaim. It's outside of being the two Haruge, the purpose of what happened was the princess was found dead on the road, on the street, and somehow or another, for some reason or other, the king accused Eden of doing it. Then he was going to wipe out the entire Jewish community. So two brothers, these two puppets, they came along and said, it was us. And they took the full blame and they saved the entire Jewish community. So that's what we're talking about. Tanya. So we learn from here that you're allowed to sometimes commit suicide for a good cause. Time you learn. B'ni, Ma'u Shara Kosev. He said, said Tamim, Bonai, or my children. Tell me, what do you think the pshat in the pasuk is? Tzedakah Trei Megoy v'Chesed L'Nuchatas. That tzedakah elevates a nation, and yet Chesed for goyim is considered a sin. How can being charitable, being magnanimous, considered a sin? Then Rabbi Lezer came along first and he said, I'll tell you, tzedakah Goy is referring to Goy. That's referring to the Eden. That's Goy is Eden. The Chesed L'Nuchatas. Why is it a default? Everything they do is chet to land. This is a sin. They're only doing it to aggrandize themselves, or they want to live a longer life. Hashem says that the best thing I can say is that you should do to bring satisfaction to the Eibishter. They daven for the life of the king, and his children. So this is like to live longevity. What's wrong? The time we learned how we had somebody says, I'm giving tzedakah on the condition that my son should live. He's a tzaddik gomer. So like Kasha, can't be so Yid going on. And Teishes in Psochel Chesed explains, and Rashi says also that a Yid has no regrets. Even though it says you shouldn't do Makabel, I'm not Pras, he has no regrets. What do you mean he has no regrets? Because if it doesn't work out, he's still happy that he gave tzedakah. But a guy will have misgiving. Why did I give tzedakah? I gave it for this thing to happen. It didn't happen. I want my money back. That's the difference. Big machlekes if you're allowed to say b'chanunin or b'zois. We know by Maisa it says they just says you can test it. Does it apply to tzedakah or not? In Shulchan Aruch is a big machlekes. And furthermore, when it says Maisa, let's say Maisa, is it Maisa ksofim as well, or only Maisa of food? Because within Maisa itself, those say include Maisa 10% that you have to give tzedakah as well. Anyway, then Rabbi Shuv, I'm not tzedakah to him. I'll take another shot. Elu Yisrael, I'll agree. Goy Yisrael, see me come about it. The chet is a sin. It's a chsar. Why? They want the kingdom, the monarchy to last. And it says the Malka Daniel suggested to Lachanetzer, the Malki shall be ready before the Gimel, the Shaproloch and the Dalit, the Chatecha b'Tzedekah Proik, you want to redeem yourself, give tzedakah. The Avisecha b'Michan Anian Haint, by giving your sins will be wiped out, iniquities by giving tzedakah to the poor. And you'll be a king, and we know another 12 months he extended his kingdom. And then I'm going to open up his coffers and have to eat. Then I'm going to eat the chesed is called dog chesed. So they're all doing it for personal benefits. Doing it to aggrandize themselves. Everybody's a big shot. Hubris goes to Gehenna. It says a pasuk that Zod Yoyer late Shmoy Oiseh be'Evrazod. He doesn't make them angry. He ain't ever Gehenna. It says Yem Evra Yemahu. He goes to Gehenna. Amar Gamliel Dainon Zichle B'Doy. We still need the opinion of B'Doy. Rabbi Lezer B'Doy. Rabbi Lezer B'Doy says Tzedakah Terem Goy Eli Yisrael. These are the Eden. It says Umi Ka'amcha Yisrael Ge'achabaret. The Chesed L'Mchatas called Tzedekah V'Chol Dok Chesed Akamoysin Chet is a sin. So no, he's not doing it to antagonize us. And it says, they sinned to Hashem, and it was this thing because they used it against the okay, so these are all different psukim showing that for a guy giving tzedakah to do with personal aggrandizement. Now, Alter Rebbe, the first paragraph of Tanya, at the very end, brings down this Gemara, and when they asked all the questions to Alter Rebbe when he was imprisoned, they asked him 26 questions, and this was the last question. When Alter Rebbe then stood before the panel there, and he answered every single one of them. When he came to the last question, they said to him, the prosecutor said, "No, explain why you say when a guy does tzedakah it's a bad thing," and the judge said, I don't think we don't know the answer. He answered the other 25 so well, we'd rather remain with a question than know the answer. So they didn't answer. There is a big, beautiful explanation of Korach, but we'll leave another time. Then Rechina came along and said, he said, no, I'll tell you Pshat Pasuk. Radically, everyone else says more. The theme is very similar. The only question is, so what is the Chesaron by Goy? Comes along, and the Chuna Kani said, Tzedakah Treimim Goy, the Chesed Li, he said, this is Pshat. Tzedakah Treimim Goy, and the word v'chesed, you thought v'chesed l'um'chatz, the word chesed carries on to the goyim. No, put a comma after v'chesed. Tzedakah t'reimim goy v'chesed. That tzedakah and chesed lift the Eden. But l'umim chatzes, they only do avedas. Amalem Rabbi Yechon Tamidim. Rabbi Yechon said to Tamidim, Nira. I like Divrei Mechumin Akanim b'dvarai u'midivrei. I like his pshat better than mine and yours. If you should know, it's tzedakah v'chesed l'Yisrael. There's a difference in chesed. Chesed is mil chasadim. If you remember the Gemara Kedushin, like gedoyle gimil chasadim yaised mitzedakah, because here you're giving from your goof and here you're giving from your money. So therefore, to attribute to Eden both milas is much better. Ulakam chatas miklal duhunami mayish. Rabbi Yechon obviously had his own pshat. What was his pshat? He asked all the students, and he says, "I like his pshat better than mine and my students." What was Rabbi Yechon pshat? Said, "You want to tell me, learn." Rabbi Yechon kishem shechatas mechaperes hayisrael, like a chatas, a korban chatas forgives Eden. That's what it says there. I hold that on contrary, it's not a negative thing. He's saying here that two goyim can bring karbanos. Tzedakah also works for them, just like it works for us. It's also a kapara for them, which is also radically different than all this Talmudim. Okay, we'll stop over here. We'll continue in Mitzvah Shem Shabbos, 7 o'clock.